Picture this. You are a Spanish naval engineer. You have spent the last 10 years of your life on one single project. You skipped holidays. You missed birthdays. You worked weekends. And today is the day your submarine finally hits the water. The crowd is cheering, the cameras are rolling, the Prime Minister is watching. This is your moment. Your submarine is called the S-80 Isaac Peral. It is named after a Spanish inventor, a legend, the man who built Spain's very first submarine back in 1888. This new sub is supposed to carry on that legacy. It is supposed to be the most advanced submarine in the entire Mediterranean Sea. Quieter than anything Europe has ever built. Deadlier than anything Spain has ever launched, a symbol of an entire nation's engineering power. $2.2 billion over a decade of work, hundreds of the smartest engineers in the country, and it is finally about to hit the water. So here is my question for you. What do you think happens next? The sub hits the water and it sits way too low. Not a little low, it's not something that the engineers can adjust easily. 70 tons too heavy. That's the weight of a fully grown blue whale just sitting on your submarine. That's the weight of about 10 full school buses stacked on top of your life's work. A submarine that is 70 tons overweight doesn't just float badly, it dives just fine straight to the bottom. It just never comes back up. That's not a submarine anymore. That is a $2 billion anchor. And the cause of this? The thing that turned a decade of work and billions of dollars into an embarrassment heard around the world? 1 decimal point. In the wrong place. That's it. That might genuinely be all it was. A typo. One single typo. And to fix it, Spain didn't scrap the project. They didn't start over. No. They stretched the submarine like taffy. They literally cut it in half and added 30 feet to the middle. And then after all of that, after years of stretching and rebuilding and spending more billions, the submarine didn't fit in its own dock. I am not making any of this up. This is a real thing that actually happened with real money, real engineers, and a very real submarine. Today, we are breaking down one of the most expensive, most embarrassing, most unbelievable engineering disasters in modern history. Buckle up, because this story gets so much worse before it gets better. To understand why this disaster happened, you need to understand what Spain was trying to do. And to understand that, you need a little bit of history. For most of the 20th century, Spain was not a major naval power. They weren't building cutting-edge warships. They weren't leading the world in military technology. They were mostly buying equipment from other countries, especially France, and calling it a day. And for a while, that worked fine. Buy a submarine from France. Done. Move on. But here's the thing about buying weapons from other countries. You are always dependent on them. If France decides to raise the price, you pay it. If France decides to stop selling, you're stuck. If something breaks, you need their parts, their engineers, their permission. Spain was tired of that. In the early 2000s, Spain made a decision. They were going to build their own submarine. From scratch, on Spanish soil, with Spanish workers, using Spanish technology. No more depending on France. No more being second tier. Spain was going to join the elite club of countries that could design and build their own advanced military submarines. That club, by the way, is very small. We're talking the US, Russia, the UK, France, China, the absolute top of the food chain in military power. Spain wanted in. The program was called the S-80 Plus program. The submarine would be built by a company called Navantia, Spain's state-owned shipbuilder, and the design was genuinely impressive on paper. We're talking about a submarine that was roughly 235 feet long, displacement of around 2,400 tons when surfaced, a crew of 32 sailors capable of carrying torpedoes and anti-ship missiles, and designed to operate quietly, extremely quietly, in the shallow waters of the Mediterranean. But the thing that made this sub truly special, the thing Spain was most proud of, AIP, Air Independent Propulsion. Now let me explain this simply because it actually matters to the story. Most conventional submarines run on diesel engines. Diesel engines need oxygen to run, which means the submarine has to come up near the surface regularly to breathe, basically sticking up a snorkel to get air. When it does that, it makes noise. It becomes detectable and it becomes vulnerable. AIP technology changes everything. With AIP, the submarine uses a fuel cell system, similar to what powers some electric cars, to generate electricity without needing oxygen from the air. That means it can stay completely submerged for weeks and in total silence. No snorkeling, no noise, no detection. Just a ghost silently moving through the water. Very few submarines in the world had this technology, and Spain was going to be one of them. And the plan wasn't just to build these subs. The plan was to sell them. Spain wanted to market the S-80 to other countries. Australia, Brazil, other NATO allies. This submarine was supposed to be a product, a tech export, a moneymaker. The investment would pay for itself. Spain would become a defense technology powerhouse. The government was all in, the Spanish Navy was all in, the media was hyping it, the people were proud. This wasn't just a submarine, this was a statement. Spain is back, Spain is serious, Spain can do this. There was just one small problem with all of this. One tiny, easily avoidable, embarrassingly simple problem. Nobody in all of that hype, all of that pride, all of that excitement, nobody stopped to make sure the math was right. The S-80 program officially started in 2004. Navantia began designing, engineers began working, money began flowing, and for years, everything seemed fine. Oh sure, there were delays. There are always delays in military projects. A year behind here, a budget overrun there, normal stuff, nothing alarming. The first submarine, the Isaac Peral, was supposed to be delivered to the Spanish Navy by 2011. That deadline came and went. 2012, still not ready. 2013, still working on it. But in 2013, something changed. It wasn't a ceremony. It wasn't a press release. It was just a quiet, terrible moment when someone sat down, ran the numbers, and felt their stomach drop. The S-80 was 70 metric tons overweight. Let me put that in perspective for you, because 70 tons sounds like a big number, but it might not mean much yet. 1 metric ton is about 2,200 pounds. 70 metric tons is about 154,000 pounds. That is the weight of a fully grown blue whale. That is the weight of roughly 10 fully loaded school buses. That is the weight of about 50 mid-sized cars. All of that extra weight on a submarine that was already precisely engineered to float at a very specific weight. Now here's the physics, and I'm going to make this so simple a 6th grader can understand it because it really is that simple, which makes what happened even more embarrassing. Everything that floats in water floats because of something called buoyancy. Buoyancy is just the water pushing back up against an object. The water says, I was here first, you're taking up my space, I'm pushing back. If the upward push from the water is stronger than the weight of the object, it floats. If the weight of the object is stronger than the push from the water, it sinks. Submarines use this on purpose. They have tanks inside called ballast tanks. Fill those tanks with water. The sub gets heavier, it dives. Blow that water out with compressed air, the sub gets lighter, it rises. It's a beautiful, elegant system, but it only works within a certain weight range. Design the submarine at the right weight, it works perfectly. Make it 70 tons too heavy, and here is what happens. The submarine can still dive. Gravity doesn't care about your budget. It goes down just fine. But when the crew tries to surface, they blow out the ballast tanks. They make the sub as light as they possibly can, and it's still not enough. The submarine stays on the bottom. A submarine that cannot surface is not a submarine. It is a tomb. A $2.2 billion tomb sitting at the bottom of the ocean with 32 sailors inside. This was not a small design flaw. This was a nobody comes home level problem. So how did it happen? The official explanation from Spain was vague. Design errors, calculation mistakes. But the story that spread through the global engineering community, the one that defense analysts and naval experts kept pointing to, was a decimal point. Somewhere in the thousands of calculations that go into designing a submarine, someone moved a decimal point one place in the wrong direction. A number that should have been, say, 1.3 got entered as 13, or a number that should have been 0.75 got entered as 7.5. One keystroke, one moment of not double-checking, and the error got baked into the design, and nobody caught it. Not in 2004, not in 2005, not in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, or 2012. For nearly a decade, this mistake sat inside the blueprints of a submarine that hundreds of engineers were working on every single day. Now, to be fair, Spain never officially confirmed the decimal point story. Their official statement used the phrase design errors. But here's what we know for certain. The sub was 70 tons overweight. The error was mathematical in nature, and it wasn't caught until the submarine was already being built. The damage was done. Spain now had a submarine that couldn't surface. A decade of work, billions of dollars, national pride on the line, and a math error that could have been caught with a basic review. The question now was, what do you do? Do you scrap it? Do you start over? Do you admit to the world that you made a catastrophic mistake and send $2 billion to the bottom of the ocean? Or do you do something even more ridiculous? Spain chose option 3. They were going to fix it. Now, scrapping the whole project was genuinely on the table. Some people pushed for it, walk away, cut the losses, learn the lesson, and move on. But here's the problem with that. By 2013, Spain had already sunk, no pun intended, an enormous amount of money into this project. We're talking billions. And Spain in 2013 was not exactly rolling in cash. This was right in the middle of the European debt crisis. Spain's economy had been hammered. Unemployment was over 25%. The government was already under massive public pressure. Canceling the submarine program would have been a political disaster on top of an engineering disaster, so they decided we fix it. Spain called in help from the United States. Specifically, they hired a company called Electric Boat. If you don't know Electric Boat, these are the people who build submarines for the United States Navy. Submarines like the Virginia class, the most advanced attack submarines in the world. If anyone knew how to fix a broken submarine design, it was these guys. Electric Boat looked at the problem. They ran their own calculations. They assessed the situation, and they came back with a solution. Make it longer, that's the fix. Just add more submarine. Now, before you laugh, and I know you want to, this actually makes sense from a pure physics standpoint. Remember buoyancy? The water pushing up? The amount of upward push depends on how much water the object displaces. A bigger object displaces more water. More displaced water means more upward force. More upward force means the sub can handle more weight. So if your submarine is too heavy, make it bigger. Give it more volume, more buoyancy. Problem solved. On paper. In theory. If nothing else goes wrong, the plan was to cut the submarine in half right down the middle, weld in a brand new 30-foot section and reconnect the whole thing. 30 feet. That's roughly the length of a standard school bus being inserted into the middle of your submarine. This wasn't a small modification. This was major surgery on a vessel that had taken a decade to design, and it didn't happen fast. This fix took years. More engineers, more labor, more equipment, more money, tens of millions more on top of what was already spent. The Spanish public was furious. The media was having a field day. Opposition politicians were demanding answers. But Navantia kept working, and slowly, painfully slowly, the submarine got longer. And when it was finally done, when the stretched, extended school bus in the middle submarine was finally complete, everyone took a breath. Okay, it floats now, the math checks out, buoyancy is good, crisis averted, lesson learned, move on. Except, someone needed to move the submarine from the construction facility back to its home base, the Cartagena Naval Base, on the southeastern coast of Spain, where the dry docks were. The dry docks that were specifically built to house the S-80 submarines. The dry docks that were designed and constructed based on the original dimensions of the submarine. Before it was stretched, the submarine pulled into Cartagena, came toward its dock, and didn't fit. The dry dock was too short, by about, you guessed it, 30 feet. The exact amount they had just added to the submarine. They had to rebuild the docks. Let me say that again so it really lands. Spain built a submarine. It was too heavy. They stretched it to fix the weight, then discovered it no longer fit in the dock built specifically for that submarine. So they had to rebuild the dock. This is the engineering equivalent of your pants don't fit. So you let out the waste and then discover you can't fit through your own front door anymore. So now you're rebuilding the door. More money, more time, more delays. The Isaac Peral, which was supposed to be delivered in 2011, was now looking at delivery sometime in the 2020s, over a decade late, costing more than double the original budget, and the dock still needed to be fixed. Spain had turned a submarine problem into a submarine problem and a dock problem, which is impressive in a horrifying kind of way. Let's talk about money, because at this point, the money is genuinely staggering. The original contract for the 4 S-80 submarines was signed for approximately 2.2 billion euros. At the time, that was roughly 2.2 to 2.5 billion US dollars. That's the budget. That's what Spain planned to spend. By the time the project was done, estimates put the total cost at close to 4 billion euros, almost double. Let's break down where that extra money went. First, the redesign itself. Having Electric Boat come in and completely re-engineer a submarine mid-construction is not cheap. American engineering expertise at that level costs serious money. Second, the physical modification. Cutting a submarine in half, fabricating a 30-foot hull extension, and welding everything back together with military-grade precision, that's not a weekend project. That's years of highly skilled labor. Third, the dock reconstruction at Cartagena. Infrastructure projects always cost more than expected. Always. Fourth, the delays themselves. Every year of delay costs money. You still have to pay your engineers, you still have to maintain the facility, you still have to keep the lights on. Add it all up and you have one of the most expensive military procurement disasters in European history. But here's the part, and I want you to really listen to this part. Here's the part that is almost too painful to talk about. Remember the AIP engine? The whole reason Spain built this submarine? The air-independent propulsion system that was going to make this sub silent and invisible and revolutionary? The technology that was going to let Spain sell submarines to other countries? The thing that justified the entire program in the first place? It wasn't ready. When Spain finally launched the first S-80 submarine, the AIP system was not operational. They launched the submarine without the engine, the main feature, the headline technology, the whole point, not included at launch. The official line was that the AIP system would be installed and integrated later in a future refit at some unspecified point down the road. So Spain spent nearly 4 billion euros, waited over a decade, rebuilt a dock, stretched a submarine, and launched a vessel that was missing its most important feature. Now, to be completely fair, this is not totally unusual in military procurement. Big weapons programs often launch with placeholder systems and upgrade later. The US does it, the UK does it, everyone does it. But the difference is those programs don't usually also have the decimal point disaster and the stretching and the dock rebuilding all in the same project. When you combine all of it together, the math error, the bloated cost, the ridiculous fix, the dock problem, the missing engine, it becomes something uniquely spectacular in its failure. And the deeper issue here is important. This wasn't just bad luck. This wasn't just one mistake. This was a failure of process. When national pride gets attached to a project, when a submarine becomes a symbol instead of just a piece of equipment, people stop asking hard questions. Nobody wanted to be the engineer who raised their hand in 2006 and said, "Hey, I think our weight calculations might be off," because that would slow things down. That would invite scrutiny. That would suggest Spain wasn't ready to be playing in the big leagues. And so the culture became, keep moving, don't question, we'll figure it out. Until you can't figure it out anymore, until the submarine is already half built, until billions are already spent, until the math error has been baked into the steel hull of a vessel sitting in a shipyard. This is what happens when politics drives engineering instead of the other way around. The scientists and engineers have to be the ones in charge of scientific and engineering decisions, not the politicians, not the PR teams, not the national pride. The moment you let pride override process, you get the S-80. So here's where we land. The S-80 Isaac Peral was officially commissioned into the Spanish Navy in 2023. That is more than 12 years after its original delivery date. 12 years late, nearly double the budget, and launched without its headline engine. But, and this is genuinely important to say, it does exist. It floats, it dives, it surfaces, it works. Spain eventually got there, and the program continues. The Spanish Navy is getting all 4 submarines, the AIP system is being integrated, the docks at Cartagena have been rebuilt, so in some sense Spain pulled it off, just at twice the cost, with twice the time, and 10 times the embarrassment. But here's what I keep coming back to when I think about this story. This wasn't a shortage of talent. Spain had genuinely skilled engineers on this project. Navantia is not a bad company. They've built ships and vessels for decades. This was a shortage of process, a shortage of oversight. A shortage of people willing to slow down and double-check the math before committing billions of dollars and a decade of national pride to a single design. One review. One independent check of the weight calculations. That's all it would have taken. One person saying, before we cut steel, let's verify these numbers. And none of this happens. That's the real lesson of the S-80. Not that Spain failed, but that pride and pressure are the 2 most dangerous forces in any engineering project. They make people rush. They make people afraid to speak up. They turn a math check into a political statement, and sometimes they turn a $2 billion submarine into a $4 billion anchor. All right, I want to hear from you. Is this the biggest engineering disaster in history, or is there something even worse out there? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I reply to as many as I can. And if you want to see more videos like this, stories that sound completely fake but are 100% real, hit that subscribe button. We drop new videos every week. If this video taught you something new today, or if it just made you feel better about your own math skills, hit the like button. It's free, it takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this channel grow. I'll see you in the next one.